Hey everyone, this is Carrie the Snail, and today we're gonna watch another Goosebumps episode. You know, in anticipation for October, which is 4 months away. Please let me know if I should really stop doing this, because otherwise I might just keep going. Sometimes people don't know that they have a problem until others, point it out for them. This time I tried looking for some of the worst Goosebumps episodes. I looked at some tier lists. I even consulted the Goosebumps subreddit to weigh in on what the worst episodes were. And while this one doesn't always show up on those kinds of lists, it holds a really special place in my heart, because it was actually the first Goosebumps book I've ever read. Why did I read this Goosebumps book first? Well, it's simple. I was regularly horrified yet very engrossed with the Goosebumps book covers. So I thought that, surely my little heart couldn't take it if I actually read one. Thought it was gonna be like The Ring or something. You just witness unspeakably horrible imagery, and then in 7 days, R.L. Stine himself would come out and choke me out with his mole or something. I was scared, but eventually curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to dip my little baby toes in the Goosebumps lake. So I tried to look for one that really didn't seem that scary. One that wouldn't melt the eyeballs right in my sockets. So I came across Go Eat Worms. I saw this cover and I was like, this can't be that bad, right? So I read it, I survived, and the rest is history. Because I'm a couple decades older and I'm still talking about Goosebumps. Yeesh. We're watching Go Eat Worms today. I don't really remember liking it or disliking it that much when I read it. I was more just stoked that I lived to tell the tale and my heart didn't explode or something. Even just looking at this cover though, this book poses a good question. Can we actually make worms scary? Yeah, they're creepy, but are they scary, really? Based on the cover, they're just exploding out of this kid's notebook. That gotta be some strong ass worms. These guys gotta be solid muscle, just wrapped up in a little worm casing. I guess that could be scary. But you know what? Let's find out for sure and watch. We start off with Todd and his best friend Danny. It's pretty clear early on that Todd has a concerning obsession with worms.
They aerate the soil, recycle waste, and
they gross out girls when you drop them down their backs.
And they're delicious.
We're gonna prove that worms can survive just about anything. Heat, cold, stretching, even cutting them in half.
And digestion. So Todd's younger sister Reggie comes down to grab her project, which is a papier-mâché bird.
Reggie, get lost.
You don't own the basement. Worms!
They prank her hard with the worms. What boy wouldn't at that age?
I'll get you for this, Todd. You'll be sorry. Ew!
But is this kid just kind of laying worms all over the handrails of the house? He's kind of a menace. You try to use the toilet and there's just worms around the toilet seat. Come on, dude. You go to flush, but there's a little worm hanging out on the handle. You go to open a door and there's a worm tied in a circle covering their circumference of the doorknob. You grab it so it's wet and slimy from all sides. You're like, come on, Todd. I feel bad for these parents, man. Todd and Danny slap some fives and decide to leave. Is this worm POV we're getting? The worm just pops out of the soil to get a little gander at Todd and his friend. So the next day, Todd and Danny are at school and they're talking about how sick their wicked worm pranks were.
Worms are the best thing to use if you want to gross someone out. You should have heard Regina the time I put a handful of night crawlers into the bathtub.
They're discussing how effective the use of worms are in most day-to-day situations. And then...
Something died in there.
Danny finds some worms in his food, so naturally, he's looking at Todd. He's thinking this is a little bit of friendly fire, so he cuts off the relationship.
You and your stupid jokes.
Why would I? You're my best friend.
Not anymore.
Might seem a little extreme, but, way to set your boundaries, Danny. I respect that.
Reggie.
Obviously, Todd's pretty upset. He's assuming Reggie did it to get back at him. Later that evening.
Todd, are you in here? No wonder I don't get in here more often.
From the looks of this room, it is abundantly clear how obsessed Todd is with the worm kind. Mom walks in, looks around, and is like, this kid's putting worms down his pants, I know it.
Sorry, Mom. I thought you were Reggie.
You thought it was Reggie? Your little sister? You thought this older woman, who is a foot taller than you and looks a lot like your mom, was your little sister. Kid's been spending so much time with worms, he doesn't know what his family looks like, man.
You two still at war?
She tried to poison me.
Oh, she did not. If worms were deadly, you'd be long gone by now.
Why is the mom talking this way? If worms were deadly, you'd be long gone by now.
Then how'd those worms get in my lunch?
Well, it wasn't me. I like to see you getting your protein, but that's going a bit far.
I like to see you getting your protein, but that's going a bit far.
If you were my client, I'd tell you to plead insanity. Crazy about worms.
I just think they're cool, that's all.
Mom gives Todd the ultimate ultimatum.
Fix the bird, or no science fair.
No way.
You gotta fix Reggie's bird or you're not going to the science fair. It's a tale old as time.
Now hit the sack, worm boy. It's after 10.
What is with this mom, man? She's wilding out. Hit the sack, worm boy. Imagine calling your son worm boy. All right, we'll turn off those lights because it's time to go to bed, you little worm boy. See you tomorrow. Hey, honey, come take a look at the little worm boy over here. Oh my God. Mom! Oh, what, would you like me to tie your arms and legs to your body so you can just slither around the floor like a little worm, you little worm boy? Mom, what the hell? No, I mean, if you want, I could just empty the pool in the backyard and just fill it completely with earthworms and then push you into it without any floaties, because you'd like that, you dirty little worm boy, wouldn't ya? Yeah, I would like that, actually. Worm boy! Then after Todd goes to bed, we get a shot of the worms here, and it looks like, I guess they're making their way up through the vent in the garage. There's some impressive worms. Then Todd feels something in his sleep. Okay, you're telling me Todd is this obsessed with worms, but he hasn't done this already? So obviously Todd is furious that Reggie would do something like this.
Reggie snuck into my room and put worms in my bed.
But then Mom says, Todd, she's not even here. She's kicking it at Beth's house. So then she's like, shut the hell up, go back to bed, clean this up. Stop sleeping with your worms, man. It's freaking me out. I gotta hand it to them. This shot was pretty cool, where you're just looking through the jar and you're seeing the worms wriggling in front of your face, squirming around while Todd's in the background. It's pretty cool. While we're at it, I gotta say the music for this episode is pretty good too. Whenever you get a shot of the worms, you get these frantic little plucks and screeches of the violin. It's actually kind of good. It just really gives you the feeling of something just kind of slimy and wormy, you know, slipping through your butt crack or something. So the next day at school, Todd makes amends with Danny. They're friends again.
I didn't do it. Why would I? I'm your best friend, remember?
Did Reggie confess?
No, she's got Mom totally snowed.
Todd's explaining that it was Reggie that did it. So then they start plotting about how to get Reggie back for this, for getting in between the boys.
What are you gonna do?
Let's just say I'll need more worms. Zillions of them.
Todd starts heading home, but on his way, he runs into Reggie and Beth, and he starts pressing them to confess.
What do you want?
For starters, you can tell Mom the truth.
I wouldn't even touch one of your stupid worms.
So Todd's skeezing around at the lake looking for more worms, when all of a sudden... he finds himself in some gigantic cave system. You know, looks around a bit, he's like, what the heck? And all of a sudden, just thundering through the caverns, he hears this strange roar. Feels like something's watching him. Completely unnerved, he looks over and sees something horrific.
Todd, we will make you squirm.
So what do we learn from that encounter? The worms know his name, and they can spell out his name too. Okay, so this is kind of where the issue comes in. While worms might be able to spell out something on a wall, you know, which is impressive, and while they might be able to wrap around his feet, the worms aren't really menacing beyond that. I mean, Todd falls back on the worms and like freaks out. I mean, yeah, that might be freaky for a couple seconds, but in reality, you can sit there for like 15 minutes and like maybe one of them's gonna make it into your ear. But like, that's about it. It's really not that serious of a situation. That is until Todd runs down the cave and sees the big one. Todd runs himself into the Alaskan bullworm. Okay, if we knew the normie worms had the Alaskan bullworm on their team, you know, things would have been different. I would have been more scared, for sure. This is a lot more devastating now. So Todd, you know, he's thinking quick. He grabs a stick and stabs that right into the Alaskan bullworm, just enough to escape its clutches. He digs his way up out of the soil, up onto fresh land. And, see, here's this kind of like a parallelism of him being like a worm. He's kind of in the worm's place now. And the big worm is kind of abusing him. The Alaskan bullworm is kind of abusing him like Todd was abusing the normie worms. But just then, the Alaskan bullworm rises up and confronts Todd again. Todd's running, but it yanks his leg, snatching him, pulling him under the turf. But suddenly, Reggie and Beth are back again, wandering in the woods, like real late at night.
Todd, are you okay?
The worm. The giant worm.
And because Reggie happened to have a bird sculpture, the worm freaked out and fled. So after this horrible experience, Todd gives up the worms for good. He removes the whole worm farm. He takes all the worm stuff off his room walls. He also passes his tapeworm.
Looks like you've done some redecorating.
I guess.
I'm not sure if you've seen a face like this before, but this is the face of a man who has worm PTSD. WPTSD. ABWPTSD. Everywhere he looks, he's now seeing worms. Every morning when he wakes up, he just looks at his hand and sees a stump with worms flopping around off of it. It's gonna haunt him for the rest of his life.
Oh! Todd! Oh my gosh, are you okay, man? Yeah, sorry. It's just for a moment the pencil looked like, nothing. All right. Hey, do you ever see worms like everywhere all the time? I mean, like sometimes, like on the sidewalk after it rains or something. Sure. But like whenever you look into a worm's eyes, does it seem like they thirst for your bloodshed? Like if you got hit by a car in front of a worm, like like the worm would like enjoy it, like it'd be happy that you got hit by a car. Todd, what are you talking about? You wouldn't understand. Like if earlier that day you saw a worm and then you got hit by a car, wouldn't it seem like the worm paid the driver off? Or they banded together into some sort of megazord and created a human form and then drove the car to hit you with? Todd, what do you have against worms? Me? What? No, I would never have something against worms, okay? That's not me. That's not who I am anymore. Okay, man. Like, has a worm ever attempted to strangle you before? Todd!
So now that Todd's turned over a new leaf, he goes fishing with Danny. Then we start to see some questionable patterns arise with Todd's new obsession with fish. The fish community is not going to take kindly to this, Todd.
So, what are we gonna call this fish experiment? Fish. Nature's survivor.
Todd really got by those fish.
I'll keep on fishing, I promise. I'm too small. You gotta throw me back.
Danny, what is that face? Bro, your best friend just got yanked into the lake by a fish. And you're just like, that's disrespectful. I mean, I get it, but this is kind of disrespectful. And that was Go Eat Worms. Do I think it's one of the worst Goosebumps episodes? I don't know, maybe. It's certainly not great. I do think it is certainly respectable to make worms like a really creepy concept, but I still don't think it really pans out to being that much. I mean, you'd have to add the Alaskan bullworm to make it more threatening, because otherwise it's just a bunch of floppy little meat strings hanging around. What more do you want them to be? Now, if we were to add a couple of dabs of spice to this story, I think there's a really cool version of this that involves like leeches instead of worms. That could be interesting, but it would obviously be leaving a friendly neighborhood Goosebumps book territory, And how does the episode compare to the original book cover? Yeah, honestly, I don't think it accurately represents what we need to expect and anticipate in the story. I mean, like I said earlier, worms popping out of the notebook reads to me like these are some freaking nuclear reactor worms that are insanely strong and malicious. They're just blasting out of drywall trying to choke you out or something. But it's not really the case here, They're just lying around in weird places. But yeah, overall, it's not a terrible episode, but it's not great. I would give it 2 slimy G's out of 5. Well, if you watched this video, thank you so much for watching Goosebumps with me, because nobody else will. I'm Carrie the Snail, and I'll see you next time I'm out of my shell. Peace.